Okay, so we'll continue with our revision of IBC chapter. In the earlier video, we had completed till this public announcement. Now we'll move on further with the committee of the creditor discussion. Committee of the creditor, after the collation of all the claims and the determination of any financial position of the corporate debtor, the IRP shall constitute a committee of creditors. Means after collation of all the claims and determination of the financial position, that what is the financial position of the corporate debtor, IRP shall constitute a committee of the committee of the creditor. The first meeting of the committee of the creditor shall be held within 7 days of its constitution. So IRP will constitute the committee of the creditor. First meeting will be held within 7 days of the constitution. Composition will be the financial creditor. Basically, the composition of committee of creditor is of the financial creditor only, not of operational. But if there are not operational financial creditor in the company, or if the financial creditor are the related party, then there is a provision for appointment of an operational creditor as well as as the member of the what we can say COC committee. So composition, financial creditor exists. If financial creditor exists, all the financial creditor, if the financial creditor is the related party, it shall not have any right of representation, participation or voting in the meeting of the committee of the creditor. So if they are related party, then they will not have a right of representation. They cannot participate and vote in a meeting of the committee of creditor. However, such a restriction shall not apply to a financial creditor regulated by a financial sector regulator if it is a related party party solely because of the conversion of any debt into the equity shares or the instrument convertible into equity shares, or completion of such a transaction as may be prescribed prior to the insolvency commencement date. Okay, so prior to insolvency commencement date, if any financial regulator has for instance, if any financial creditor who has given any loan, or if there is any debt in relation with the corporate debtor. Okay, so if that debt has been converted into equity, and just because of that conversion, if it had become a related party, so it will not be restricted. It means that will not be considered, that financial creditor will not be considered as a related party, and they will be allowed to represent also, participate also, and also vote in a meeting. So this restriction does not apply to the financial creditor whose debt has been converted into equity share prior to the insolvency commencement date, or means debt has been converted into equity share, or the completion of such a transaction. This is an amendment, or completion of such a transaction as may prescribe. Amendment, or say basically an important thing, that is before the completion of such a transaction as may be prescribed. Okay, so financial creditor exists, this was the case. And if the financial creditor does not exist, or all the financial creditor are related party of the corporate debtor, 18 largest operational creditor, if all the operational creditor or if all the financial creditor are related party, then the constitution or composition will be 18 largest operational creditor by value. So 18 largest by value, and if they are less than 18, then all will be whatsoever number will be the member of the committee of creditor. One representative elected from the workmen by all the workmen, and one representative elected by all the employee. Okay, if a person is both the financial creditor and the operational creditor, financial and operational creditor, such a person shall be the financial creditor to the extent of the financial debt, and to be included in the committee of the creditor with, so to tell that extent, who to the extent he is a financial creditor, he can exercise the voting rights and voting share in the committee of the creditor. Such a person shall be the financial creditor to the extent of the financial debt, and be included in the committee of the creditor with a voting share proportionate to the financial debt, and shall be considered and operational creditor to the extent of the operational debt. So to the extent of the financial debt, he will be considered as a financial creditor, and to the extent of operational debt, he will be considered as an operational creditor. And in case of any joint financing as a part of the consortium or the agreement, such a part of the financial creditor shall such a financial creditor shall be the part of the committee of the creditor, and their voting share shall be determined on the basis of the financial debt owed by them, and their voting share basically will be determined on the basis of the financial debt owed by them. So each of such financial creditor, if for instance 5 banks have together given a loan to one company, so each of such 5 banks can participate to the extent of their debt been given, to the extent of the loan given to the debtor, they can participate in a meeting. So each of such financial creditor shall be the part of the committee of the creditor, and their voting share shall be determined on the basis of the financial debt owed to them. After constitution of any committee of the creditor, the IRP is required to file a report certifying the constitution of the, so once the committee of the after the constitution of the this committee of the creditor, IRP is required to file the report certifying the constitution. IRP is required to file the report certifying the constitution of the committee to the adjudicating authority on or before expiry of 30 days from the date of the appointment of the IRP. So from the date of an appointment of an IRP, on and from within 30 days from the date of his appointment, he has to submit this report certifying the constitution of committee with the adjudicating authority. Voting and conduct of the meeting, unless otherwise specified, the decision shall be taken by 51%, and the meeting shall be conducted by the resolution professional. Okay, voting and the conduct of the meeting. So meeting shall be conducted by a resolution professional, and voting right is basically in general, this is general voting right, unless otherwise specified. Decision shall be taken by 51%, but whenever there is any decision taken, basically if we go through that, take into consideration the sections which are applicable to in our syllabus, all the decision basically are with the committee of the, all the decisions of the committee of the creditor are taken by the vote of at least 66% or more, and in one case it is 90%, that is for the removal, for the withdrawal of the application. In one place it is 75% or more of the voting rights of the committee of the creditor in case of fast track resolution, that we will see further. But in general it is 51%. Notice of the meeting. So to whom all notice will be served of the meeting of the committee of creditor, the resolution professional shall give a notice of the meeting to the committee of the creditor, give a notice of the meeting of the committee of creditor. So means there's a notice of the meeting of the committee of creditor will be given to first the member of the committee of the creditor, including the authorized representative. This authorized representative we will see at the end of the chapter in general points. It will be given to the members of the committee of creditors. Second, member of the suspended board of director or the partners, so who are suspended, basically member of the suspended, members of the suspended board of director or partners. And third, operational creditor or their representative, if the amount aggregate of amount of the due, basically if the amount of their aggregate dues greater than equal to 10% of the debt, so of the total debt, the operational creditor whose debt is 10% or more, they to them the notice of the committee of notice of the meeting of the committee of the creditor will be served. The person other than the member of the committee of the creditor mentioned above do not have the right to vote in the meeting. So only the first, that is the member of the committee of creditor, have the right to vote. This member of the suspended board of director, the operational creditor, they do not have a right to vote in a meeting of the committee. They can just present at the meeting. However, they may attend the meeting. So basically the members of suspended board of director and the partner and operational creditor, they can just attend the meeting. They do not have the right they do not have the power to vote at the meeting of the committee of creditor. Quorum of the committee of the creditor, at least 33% of the member of the committee of creditor, either in person or by audio visual means. If a requisite quorum is not met, so 33% is the voting, 33% is the quorum, at least 33% of the voting rights of the members. So those members holding 33%, at least 33 or more, forms the quorum, either in person or by audio visual means. If requisite quorum is not met, the meeting shall be automatically adjourned to same day, same place. Meeting shall be automatically adjourned to the same time, same place next day. It is just next day. and not next week. The point to be remember over here, same time same place next day, the adjourn meeting. So if the quorum does not mean, it will be adjourned to the next day. The adjourn meeting shall correlate with the member attending the meeting, and the adjourn meeting will be it will be conducted basically with the member attending the meeting. Then resolution professional. So in the first meeting of the committee of the creditor, the resolution IRP or any of the other IP, insolvency professional, shall be appointed to act as an resolution professional by a vote of greater than equal to 66%. Wait a second. So this voting right, which is more than equal to 66%, it is read as there should be majority of the member as well, and the voting should be by the person, means voting should be by voting rights of greater than equal to 66% of the voting share. So basically it is a committee of the creditor in the first meeting by majority. Majority word is important. Committee of creditor by the in the first meeting by majority not less than 66% of any voting share, or 66% of any voting share. So majority also and 66% of any voting share also appoint interim resolution professional. So they will appoint the interim resolution professional or any other professional to act as an resolution professional. Okay, in any of the, if any other, if second para, if any other insolvency professional is appointed to act as a resolution professional, it shall file an application to the NCLT for the appointment of the proposed appointment of the proposed RP. If the IBBI does not confirm the name of the RP within 10 days of the receipt, the NCLT shall direct the IRP to continue as an RP until the board confirms. So okay, how the process goes, like the IRP can be appointed as an resolution professional by the vote by the voting right or by the of in the first meeting by majority not less than 66% of any voting shares. They can either appoint the same IRP as an RP, or they can appoint they can propose a new IP to be appointed as an RP. Then if they propose the new, in case if other IP is appointed to act, so first they shall file an application to the NCLT. So committee of creditor will file an application to the NCLT by majority and voting right of 66%. They will file an application to NCLT for the appointment. NCLT will refer to the IBBI will propose the name, confirm the name within 10 days of the receipt, and if it does not confirms within 10 days, so NCLT will direct that the earlier IRP which was there, so earlier IRP to act as to continue as an RP until the board confirms. Then tenure until order approving the resolution plan or appointing a liquidator is passed by the adjudicating authority. Okay, so till what tenure this RP will be stayed in a company? What is the tenure of the RP basically? So until order approving the resolution plan. So till the time the resolution plan is approved, order approving the resolution plan or appointing a liquidator. So if a liquidator will be appointed, so this RP will have to vacate, that is his tenure will cease. So approving the resolution plan or appointing of any liquidator is passed by the adjudicating authority. Okay, so what are the powers of the resolution professional? Resolution professional powers, that is convey and attend all the meetings of the committee of the creditor. Convey, and so he will convey the meeting and he will attend also all the meetings of the committee of creditor. Second, take custody and the control. It was the same in IRP also. He has also power that he can monitor the assets, he can take the custody of the assets, take the control of all the assets of the corporate data which are owned by the corporate data. Then third, raise the interim finance subjected to the approval of the committee of the creditor. So IRP with the approval of the committee of the creditor can raise interim finance, so he can take custody, monitor the assets, control assets, then raise interim finance, convey and conduct all the meetings. Then fourth is maintain an updated list of claim. So he will maintain the updated, so what all claims are being raised, what all claims are being claimed basically by the financial creditor or the operational creditor on the corporate debtor. So he will maintain the updated list of the claims. Then represent and act on behalf of the corporate debtor with third parties. So he will represent also and act on behalf of the corporate data. So he will basically control the management of the corporate data. So he will represent also and will act on behalf of the corporate data with third parties. So whenever dealing with third party, the earlier management will not dealing with the third party, but the resolution professional will deal with the third party. Then so basically convey the meeting, attend the meeting, take custody, raise interim finance, maintain updated list, the represent and act on behalf of the corporate data. Then invite prospective lenders, investor, any other person to put forward solution, present all the resolution plan at the meetings of the committee of the creditor. So what he will do is present all the resolution plan at the meetings of the committee of creditor, prepare the information memorandum, appoint the accountant, legal and other professional, file the applications for the avoidance of transaction. So basically these are the important powers, the 7th, 8th, 9th. So present all the resolution plan at the meeting of the committee of creditors. So he will present the resolution plan, because the committee of creditors is trying to revive the corporate data. So he will present the resolution plan in the meeting of the at the meeting of the committee of creditors. Second, prepare information memorandum. Then third, this information memorandum is also useful in preparation of the resolution plan. So he will prepare. So basically it is given that present the resolution plan, then prepare the information memorandum. It is the power of resolution professional. Then appoint accountant, legal and other professional. That RP will appoint accountant, legal professional or other professional, legal or other professional. Then they will file an application for the avoidance of transaction. This avoidance of transaction we will see further in the later part what it is exactly, this avoidance of transaction. Okay, so we'll again, if we'll brief up and quickly revise the power. So it is convey and attend the meetings of the convey and attend all the meetings of the committee of creditor, take custody and the control of all the assets of the committee of creditor of the corporate debtor, raise the interim finance subjected to the approval of the committee of creditor, maintain an updated list of the claims, represent and act on behalf of the corporate debtor with the third party, invite prospective lenders, investor and any other person to put forward their solutions. So he invites the prospective lenders, investor and other person to put forward their solution. Then present all the resolution plan at the meeting of the committee of creditor, prepare the information memorandum, appoint accountant, legal and other professional, file an application for the avoidance of the transaction. Duties. So what is the duty of the resolution professional? That to preserve and to protect the assets of the corporate debtor, including the continued business operation, to present, protect the assets and to continue the business operation. Then wait a second. Continue with the eligibility of the IP to be appointed as the RP. So eligibility of the IP to be appointed. So if for appointment of any insolvency professional as an resolution professional, what are the eligibility criteria? That if he and all the partners and the directors of the IP entity are independent of the corporate data, that is he is eligible to be appointed as an independent director under section 149 of the Companies Act 2013. So that it is given that there should be an independence criteria, that all the partners and all the members of the IP entity are independent of the corporate data, that is he is eligible to be appointed as an independent director on the independent director under section 149 of the Companies Act 2013. Then second, not a related party of the corporate data. So he can be appointed, he should be eligible to be appointed as an independent director not related to the corporate data, then not an employee, proprietor or partner of a firm of an auditor, secretary or practice or the cost auditor in last 3 years. So there is no limit, but only they have given that if he has been an employee, proprietor, partner or partner of the chartered firm of a chartered accountant, cost account, company secretary or the cost auditor of the corporate data for last 3 financial year, or a legal consulting firm, legal or a consulting firm that has or had any transaction with the corporate data. So that a legal firm is having any transaction with the corporate data greater than equal to 5% of the gross turnover of such a firm. So the turnover of the firm, for instance, is 100 lakh, that is 1 crore. So greater than equal to 5%, so greater than equal to 5, so 1 crore 5% is 5 lakh, yeah, 5 lakh. So great, so if it is 6 lakh for instance, so there should be a transaction of 6 lakh rupees or 5 lakh or more between the firm and the legal consulting firm and the corporate data. So the legal consulting firm and this much, so so that individual who is been appointed as an RP or RP, now is not an employee or the proprietor or the partner of any legal or consulting firm that has or had any transaction with the corporate data amounting to greater than equal to 5% of any gross turnover of such a firm in last 3 financial year. Fees of the RP and any cost incurred by the RP in running of any business of any corporate data as a going concern. So the fees of the RP or any other cost of the RP in running the business of the corporate data as a going concern shall be included in the CIRP cost and have the priority over the other cost in the event of winding up. So fees of the RP will have the priority over the other cost in the event of winding up. Replacement of the RP, this is also a nice concept. In this it has been basically divided into two. Who want to replace the, if the corporate data of the creditor want to replace, or in second para it is given that COC may at the meeting by passing of any resolution by voting powers, they can resolve to replace the RP. So in first case we will see that if the debtor or the creditor is of the opinion that the RP is required to be replaced, he may make that is, or either the debtor or the creditor may make an application to the adjudicating authority, that is NCLT, for the replacement of such a professional. The adjudicating authority shall make the reference to the board for replacement within 7 days of the receipt of such an application, and the board will then what we can say, recommend any of the IP to act as an resolution professional. Okay, so first case, if the data creditor want to replace, so they will make an application to adjudicating authority will within 7 days will make a reference to the board, and the board will accordingly make a reference that who should be appointed, and accordingly a new RP will be appointed. Second case, this COC may at a meeting, wait a second. Okay, COC may at the meeting by 66% of any voting share resolve to replace the RP subjected to a written consent from the proposed RP from the so what they can do is subjected to the written consent from the proposed RP. So if the committee of creditor wants to replace the creditor and wants to appoint any other IP as an RP to act as an RP, so they will require an written consent of the proposed RP. The committee of the creditor shall forward the name and the new proposed IP to the adjudicating authority, and after confirmation by the board, he shall be appointed in the same manner as appointed of an IRP. Okay, so now what we will do that by majority not by majority, by a voting right of 66% or more of the voting share resolve to replace. So first they will pass the resolution to replace the RP subjected to the written consent of the proposed RP. Then they will give the name and the name of the proposed, forward the name of the proposed new RP to the adjudicating authority. So now COC will forward the name of the proposed RP along with the consent, that is consent of the proposed RP, to the adjudicating authority, that is NCLT. They will make an application to the NCLT, sorry, not application, they will forward the name to the NCLT, and after the confirmation of the after the confirmation by the board, so they will forward to the adjudicating authority basically. Then adjudicating authority will forward to the board for its confirmation. If there is no disciplinary action is pending, so he shall be appointed in the same manner as appointment of any RP. Okay, then extension of any time limit of CIRP. This is also a much important concept, and also there is an amendment, not the current amendment, but the last previous not means previous attempt amendment basically. That is extent of the time of CIRP. The CIRP needs to be completed within 180 days from the admission, within 180 days from the admission of the claim. To initiate such an CIRP, the RP shall file an application to the, so for initiation of the CIRP, the resolution professional shall file an application to the adjudicating authority to extend the period if. Okay, now this should be completed within 180 days from the date of an admission of an application of such an process. Now, the resolution professional shall file an application to the adjudicating authority to extend the period if the resolution is passed by the committee of the creditor by 66% of any voting share. If the adjudicating authority is satisfied that the CIRP cannot be completed within 180 days, then it may extend the duration of such a further period, but not exceeding 90 days. Okay, now what they will do is, if they want to extend the period, so first creditor committee of the creditor will pass a resolution for extension, that they will agree for extension of any this CIRP process and process period of CIRP. For extension of this period, they will pass a resolution by a vote of 66% or more. Then that resolution, based on that resolution, RP will file an application to the adjudicating authority to extend. So if the committee of the creditor has agreed on for the extension, so RP will make an application to the adjudicating authority for the extension of any period, and if the adjudicating authority is satisfied on an application of any resolution professional, then the CIRP, if it is satisfied that the CIRP cannot be completed within 180 days, so it may extend the duration of such a period by not exceeding 90 days. It shall not be granted more than once, so it will be a one time option. It will not be granted more than once, and it will be for a period not exceeding 90 days extension also. So a 180 days plus 90 CI. So this is also this is an amendment basically. That is, the CIRP must be, which is written in bold, CIRP must be completed within 30 days, 330 days from the insolvency commencement date, including any of the extensions. So if it can be extended max to max, it will be 330 days, which includes all, that is including all any extension, including any extension and the time taken in the legal proceedings in relation to such a resolution professional, in relation to such a resolution process of the corporate debtor. So any extension of any time taken in the legal proceedings in relation to any such resolution process of the corporate debtor, if the resolution process of the corporate debtor is pending and has not been completed within such a 330 days, it shall be completed within 90 days from the commencement of the IBC Amendment Act. If the CIRP of this is pending and has not been completed within such a time. Okay, so this is basically the amendment, the upper one, which is written in bold, that it should be completed in max 330 days, including all the extensions and the time limit in the proceedings in relation to which any stay period will also be included in relation to any of the resolution process of the corporate debtor. Now, if any of the application was already pending before this amendment of IBC Act 2019, before it already 330 days has been completed, so now he will be given 90 days from the date of the commencement of the IBC Act. That is, this is basically a transition period. We will read it again. That is, if the CIRP of the corporate is pending, so corporate insolvency resolution is still pending, it has not been completed and has not been completed within 330 days, means it has not been completed in 330 days, that is 330 days has already been passed and it is still pending, it shall be completed within the 90 days of the commencement of the IBC. Okay, then the resolution plan shall be prepared. The resolution professional shall prepare the information memorandum containing the information for preparing the resolution plan. So resolution professional will basically prepare the information memorandum. That information memorandum will be useful for the preparation of the resolution plan. So that he will prepare, what we can say, information memorandum, and that will be useful for the preparation of the resolution plan. The resolution plan shall also provide the access to the following to the will also provide the access to the following to the resolution professional. What it is given is resolution professional shall also provide access to the following to the resolution applicant in order to prepare the resolution plan. Okay, the resolution, what it is given is that the resolution professional should allow the access to the resolution applicant who had basically made the application to the resolution applicant in order to that he should provide resolution professional should provide access of the followings to the resolution professional in order to prepare the resolution plan. And this resolution plan is prepared taking into with the help of the information memorandum which is prepared by RP. Okay, so what following access will be provided, that is financial position of any corporate data. That information will be shared by the RP to the resolution applicant. Financial position of the corporate data, then other matters pertaining to the corporate data. So financial position of the corporate data, that is financial angle, then other matters pertaining to corporate data, and information required by the applicant for resolution plan or any other information required. So financial information or any other matter pertaining to corporate data, financial matter pertaining to corporate data, other matter, financial position of the corporate data, other matter pertaining to corporate data, or information required by the applicant for the resolution plan or any other information if it is required. The resolution applicant may submit the resolution applicant may submit a resolution plan along with an affidavit stating that he is eligible under section 29A. This 29A we will see at the end of this what we can say, this chapter, that is who all are eligible basically. So he should state that the resolution applicant who is making an application for the resolution plan, the resolution applicant who has prepared the resolution plan, basically the resolution applicant may submit the resolution plan, means the resolution applicant has prepared the resolution plan, so he should submit the resolution plan along with the affidavit. That he should, first of all he should submit the resolution plan along with the affidavit that he is eligible, and he should also state that he is eligible. So means he should state the resolution plan, and also he should state a declaration that he is eligible under section 29 to prepare, basically to make a resolution plan. Then to make an application, basically he is eligible. Then resolution professional shall next para, resolution professional shall examine each resolution plan received by him to confirm that each resolution plan okay, now resolution professional will examine this resolution plan. He should check, that means basically confirm that each of the resolution plan provides for the payment of the CIRP cost in the priority to other debts of the corporate data. So that plan basically provides the payment of any corporate insolvency resolution process cost in the priority. Then second is he should confirm that the resolution plan provides for the payment of any debt of the operational creditor. So there has been a priority of the payment of the CIRP cost, then provides the payment for the operational creditor, then provides the management of the affairs of the corporate debtor after provides for the management of the affairs of the corporate debtor after approval of the resolution plan. That how the management of the business of the what we can say, how the management of the business, how the that provides for the management of the affairs, that how the business will be managed of the corporate debtor after approval of any resolution plan, that should also be provided in that application. Then that should also be provided in the resolution plan, basically not an application, resolution plan, that how it will be managed the affairs. Then then the resolution plan does not contravene any of the provision of this law. If any of the approval of any shareholder is required for the implementation of any resolution plan, such an approval shall be deemed to have been given and shall not be any contravention. Okay, so if any of the what we can say, if any of the approval is required of the shareholder, then such an approval shall be deemed to have been given and shall not be any contravention. Confirms that the requirement specified by the board, so that resolution plan should confirm to the requirements specified by the board. So the requirement which have been specified by the board, that is IBBI, that how the resolution plan should be, it should conform to that then. And the implementation and the supervision of the resolution plan. So you should also check how it will be, a resolution plan will be implemented and implementation and the supervision of the resolution plan. We'll go through again. That is the resolution professional while the resolution professional shall examine each resolution plan. So the resolution plan which has been submitted by the resolution applicant, and also stating that he is eligible under section 29A, what the resolution professional will do, that received by him, which the resolution professional receives the resolution plan, to confirms that each of the resolution plan provides for the payment of any CRP cost in the priority of any other debts, provides for the payment of any debt of the operational creditor, provides for the management of any affairs of the corporate debtor, provides for the management of any affairs of the corporate debtor after the approval of any resolution plan, does not that the resolution plan does not contravene any of the provisions of the law, does not contravene any of the provision of the law. If any approval of any shareholder is required for the implementation of any resolution professional, such an approval has already shall be deemed to have been given and shall not be any contravention, conforms to other requirements specified by the board, and implementation of the, it also conforms to other requirement, it does not contravene provision of the law, conforms to other requirement of the board, and implementation and the supervision of the resolution plan. Okay, so we will speak out this without saying. So the first point was that it should provide for the payment of the CIRP cost. Then second was provide for the payment of the that should be in that also be in priority. Then provide for the payment of any operational creditor. Then provides for the management of any affairs of the corporate debtor after the resolution plan has been passed. Does not contravene any of the provision of these act, any of the law. Then does not then conforms to the requirement of any resolution, conforms to the requirement of the board, and implementation and what the last point was, implementation and supervision of any resolution plan, implementation and resolution of of the resolution plan. Then the point is that the resolution professional shall present to the resolution plan. Actually, two will not come. Resolution professional shall present the resolution plan to the committee of the creditor for its approval. So now here RP will submit it to the COC for its approval. The COC may approve the resolution plan by 66% of any voting right. Wait a second, that what is the exact percentage they have given over here. Resolution professional appointment consolidation. Committee of the creditor may approve the resolution plan by the vote of not less than 66% of any voting shares of the financial creditor. Okay, so by 66% they will approve the resolution application. The resolution applicant may attend the meeting. So who had made an application, resolution applicant may attend the meeting of any committee of the creditor in which the resolution plan of the applicant is considered. However, he shall not have a right to vote unless he is also the member of the committee of creditor. Okay, who has made an application will be allowed, basically that person may attend the meeting of any committee of the creditor, but he will not be allowed, he shall not have a right to vote at the meeting unless he is also the member of the committee of creditor. Then resolution professional, the chart below, the resolution professional shall submit the approved resolution plan to the adjudicating authority if he is satisfied that the resolution, so what the resolution professional will do, the approved resolution plan, they will submit to the adjudicating authority. If it is satisfied that the approved resolution plan meet the specified requirement, it shall by an order approve the resolution plan, which shall be binding. So okay, if it is if the adjudicating authority satisfy, it shall by an order approve the resolution plan, which shall be binding on the corporate data. So now if they have approved the resolution plan, it will be binding on the corporate data, its employee, member, creditor, guarantor. Now this is new, basically an amendment. CGSG local authority, this all thing which has been written in the bold letters in black are amendment or important. Okay, so that will be binding on the corporate data and its employee, member, creditor, guarantor, CGSG local authority or other stakeholder. So it will also be binding on the CG, central government, state government, local authority, other stakeholder, member, employee, creditor, guarantor. Okay, the resolution applicant shall obtain the approval required under this within 1 year from the approval of the resolution plan by the adjudicating authority, or within such a period as may be provided by the law. Okay, so now the resolution applicant may obtain the approval required under any other law if in addition to this law, if the approval is required in any another law. So the resolution applicant shall obtain the approval required under any other law within the period of 1 year from the approval of such a resolution plan by the adjudicating authority, or within such a time period provided in such a law, whichever is later. Okay, so within 1 year from the approval of the resolution plan by the adjudicating authority. So from the time here it has been approved, within 1 year he should approve from the resolution applicant shall obtain the approval under any other law as well within 1 year, or within such a time prescribed by the law, whichever is later. So within 1 year of the adjudicating authority, order of adjudicating authority, or the such other period as provided by the law, which is later. However, where the resolution plan contains the provision of the combination under section 5 of the Competition Act, the resolution applicant shall obtain the approval of the Competition Commission of India prior to the approval of the resolution plan by the committee of the creditor. Okay, so now if the approval of the competition commission is required, so that is required to be approved even before that resolution plan has been approved by the committee of the creditor. Generally we have to obtain this approval after the order of the adjudicating authority. That is, first the resolution professional will submit this plan to the committee of the creditor for its approval. Committee of the creditor approves, then resolution professional will submit it to the adjudicating authority for its approval, and from its order of the approval, acceptance of its approval, within 1 year the resolution applicant shall obtain the approval from any other law. But in case of any competition commission, the approval for the Competition Commission of India prior to the approval, so this approval is required prior to the approval of any resolution plan by the committee of the creditor, and moratorium shall cease. So now if the resolution plan has been approved, so moratorium will cease and the resolution plan shall start being implemented. But if the second what we can say, second part, that is the resolution, what it was, that the resolution professional shall submit the approved resolution plan to the adjudicating authority if it is satisfied, if the adjudicating authority is satisfied that the resolution plan does not conforms to the requirement, that is, it is not in conformance to this all these points which we have read from A to F. If it is not in compliance, so that if the resolution plan is not in order, it may by an order not confirms the requirement, so it may by an order reject the resolution plan. So adjudicating authority will reject the resolution plan, and if that plan has been rejected, so liquidation process will be initiated. Okay, then ground for the appeal against the approval of the resolution plan: the resolution plan does not comply grounds for the appeal against the approval of the resolution plan. Now the resolution plan basically, which was prepared by the applicant with the help of the information memorandum, which was prepared by the RP, then he has submitted to the RP has submitted to the COC for the approvals. After the approval of the 66% or more of the voting of the COC, and it has been approved by the COC, then it will be submitted by the RP to the adjudicating authority. Adjudicating authority, if it is satisfied that the resolution plan which that it meets the specified requirement, then it shall order the approval of any resolution, and it will be binding on all the parties, that is corporate data, its employee, creditor, guarantor, member, CG, local authority and all. Okay, now if any of the person is agreed by this approval of any resolution plan, so grounds for the appeal against the approval of any resolution plan: the resolution plan does not complies with any of the provision of any law for the time being in force, any other criteria specified by the board, there has been an material irregularity in exercise of any power of any. So on which ground we can file an application against the approval of any resolution plan? So first is that if that resolution plan basically does not comply with the provision of any law for the time being in force, if the resolution plan is in contravention, and if it has been approved, so the if there is a contravention and if it is approved, so that will be the ground for an appeal. Or if any of the other criteria specified by the board has not been met, so that if there has been the resolution plan does not comply with any of the criteria specified by the board or any of the provisions of the law, then it will be a ground for an appeal. Or second point, that there has been a material irregularity in the exercise of any power of any exercise of the power of the RP. So the RP has misutilized basically his power. There has been a material irregularity in the exercise of the power by the RP during the CIRP. The CIRP cost have not been provided for the repayment in priority to other debts. So in the resolution plan, if the CIRP cost has not been provided in priority with the other debts, or there has been a material irregularity in the excess of any power of the RP during the CIRP, or the debt owed by the operational creditor has not been provided. So opposite of these points, basically this all points, that if the CIRP cost has not been provided, if the operational creditor debt has not been provided, or if that contravention to the provision of any law for the time being in force, or contravented with any of the, do not comply with any of the directions specified by the board, any of the criteria specified by the board, or there has been an irregularity in the exercise of any power of any resolution professional during the CIRP, then these all will form part of an what we can say, appeal, ground for the appeal against the approval of any resolution plan. Then order of the liquidation. Okay, now when can an order of liquidation be passed? No resolution plan received before the expiry of the CIRP or fast track resolution. So there is a time limit of 180 days, or it can be extended, let's say 90 days. But if we don't consider the extension of 90 days, then it should be, resolution plan should be submitted within 180 days for its approval. So that has not been received only by the adjudicating authority, so what it will approve? And if it has not been received, so adjudicating authority will pass an order for the liquidation. Okay, the second point, committee of the creditor decides to liquidate the creditor corporate debtor by 60 greater than equal to 66% of any voting share, and intimate to the adjudicating authority of such at any time before or after the preparation of such information memorandum, even at any time even before preparation of any information memorandum. Okay, so even if before preparation of any information memorandum, that is RP will prepare information memorandum, based on that it will applicant will prepare the resolution plan. But before preparation of information memorandum only, if they think no, we want this corporate debtor to be liquidated, so they will, by a voting right of 66% or more of the voting share, intimate the adjudicating authority of such that they want the corporate debtor to be liquidated. And the third is, resolution plan approved by the adjudicating authority is contravened by the corporate debtor or any other person other than the corporate debtor. So the plan which was approved by the what we can say, adjudicating authority has been contravened by either by the corporate debtor or any other person other than the corporate debtor, whose interests are prejudicially affected, and
contravened by this much, any other person other than the corporate debtor whose interest has been affected makes an application to the adjudicating authority for the liquidation. Okay, and the moratorium. Once the adjudicating authority, so we are clear with the order of liquidation. What are the cases in which order of liquidation can be passed? That is, first is that no resolution plan has been received within the given time of corporate insolvency resolution process, or the adjudicating or the committee of the creditor has decided to liquidate the corporate debtor by 66% or more of the voting share and intimate the adjudicating authority of such at any time before such preparation of any information memorandum. And the third, resolution plan approved by the adjudicating authority has been violated by the corporate debtor, and any person other than the corporate debtor whose interest has been affected has made an application to the adjudicating authority for such a liquidation. So these are the cases where order of liquidation can be passed. And the moratorium, once the adjudicating authority pass an order for the liquidation, the moratorium is imposed on the pending litigation. See, we had studied earlier that when the moratorium will cease, either on approval of any resolution plan or on order of liquidation. So when there is an order of liquidation, so the earlier moratorium which was there, it will cease and the new moratorium will start. See, what they have given is, once the adjudicating authority pass an order of liquidation, so if the order of liquidation has been passed, so the earlier moratorium which was there, it will cease. Okay, and a new moratorium, that is, a moratorium is imposed on the pending cases against the corporate debtor and the assets of the corporate debtor, including the proceeds of any liquidation vested in the liquidation estate. Okay, so moratorium will be imposed on the pending litigations, legal proceedings against the corporate debtor and the assets of the corporate debtor, including the proceeds of the liquidations will vest in liquidation state. So once this moratorium will start, what all thing will happen, that there will be moratorium will be imposed on all the pending proceedings against the corporate debtor, and all the assets which are of the corporate debtor will vest with the liquidation estate. Okay, now we'll move on to the liquidator part. Now the liquidation thing will start, that is liquidator person, eligibility, power, then liquidation estate, what will constitute liquidation estate, then consolidation of the claim and avoidance of certain transactions. This is also an interesting point. Okay, so we'll appointment of an adjudicating authority, appointment first, where the adjudicating authority pass an order for the liquidation. So the order of the liquidation has been passed by the adjudicating authority. The resolution professional appointed for the CIRP shall act as a liquidator, subjected to the written consent submitted by the RP to the adjudicating authority, unless act as a liquidator unless replaced by the adjudicating authority. Okay, so once an order of liquidation has been passed, so what RP will do is will make an application, basically subjected to the written application submitted by the RP to the adjudicating authority. What he will do, he will make a written application, written consent that the RP, that I want to act as an liquidator as well. So subjected to the written consent of the RP to the adjudicating authority, unless replaced by the adjudicating authority. Unless and until the new liquidator has been appointed by the adjudicating authority, that same will continue, that same RP will act as a liquidator. On his appointment, all the powers of the board, KMP and the partners of the corporate debtor shall cease to have the effect and shall vest in the end. See, on his appointment, all the powers of the board, KMP and the partner of the corporate debtor shall cease to have the effect and vest in the liquidator. So all the power will cease and all the powers will be vest with the liquidator. As earlier we have seen that the power has ceased and will vest to the IRP, or the powers are shifted to the RP. So now in case of liquidator, the power will shift to the liquidator. Eligibility for the appointment of an liquidator: if a person is independent of the corporate debtor, means he should be an independent to corporate debtor, that is he should be eligible as an independent director under section 149 of the Companies Act 2013, not a related party of corporate debtor, not an employee, proprietary partner of the firm of an auditor, secretarial or cost auditor of the corporate debtor in last 3 financial year, or legal or consulting firm that has any legal or consulting firm that has any transaction with the corporate debtor amounting to 5% or more of the gross turnover of such a firm in the last 3 financial year. So if that firm has any transaction, legal or consulting firm has any transaction with the corporate debtor, that person has a transaction with the corporate debtor amounting to 5% or more of the gross turnover of such a firm in the 3 preceding financial year, and if of that firm that RP is an employee, was an employer, partner or proprietor, so he will not be eligible. Okay, now what will be the power to verify the claims of the creditor? Now this liquidator will verify the claim, that who all's due, means who all are the creditor, and to whom all the dues have to be paid. So we will verify the claim of the creditor, evaluate the assets and the property of the corporate debtor. So what they will do is evaluate the assets and corporate debtor, take all the assets, property, effects and actionable claim of the corporate debtor into his custody. So evaluate the assets and the property of the corporate debtor, take all the assets, property, effects and actionable claim of the corporate debtor into custody. So he takes basically all the property, claims, actionable claim into his custody, verify the claim of the creditor, evaluate the assets and the property of the corporate debtor, take all the property in his custody and actionable claim into his custody, carry out the business of any corporate debtor for his benefit, for its beneficiary liquidation. So he will carry out the business for its beneficiary liquidation. So he will basically take the assets, property, effect and the actionable claim of the corporate debtor into his custody, then carry out the business of the corporate debtor for its beneficiary liquidation and make a progress report of the corporate debtor. So he will make the progress report of the corporate debtor as well. So if I again go through what all are the powers is, first is verify the claims of the creditor, evaluate the assets and the property of the corporate debtor, evaluate the assets, then take all the assets, property, effect, actionable claim of the corporate debtor into his custody, take or carry out the business of the corporate debtor for its beneficiary liquidation, make the progress report of the corporate debtor, Okay, so we'll continue with the liquidation estate in the next video. Thank you for watching the video.